Spiritual health, in my opinion, is the most important of all the eight healths. It can make null and void social health, emotional health, financial health, and environmental health obsolete, in my opinion. And I'll do another video on that later on if I remember on why I think so. But today I'm going to tell you, ladies, and even you guys in MGTOW, if you're watching this, you can learn from this as well. But it's more for the ladies who want to be good wives, who want to be wives. You don't want to just be married, because being married doesn't make you a wife. You have to, you already have to be a wife, in my opinion. But you don't want just to be a wife, you want to be a chaste wife. That's chaste, like a virtuous wife. And I'll tell you a story about a woman, Devahuti. This is from the Indian culture. Um, I'm assuming it predates recorded history. Um, because a lot of information is passed on verbally over the centuries and recorded, and of course Sanskrits and the culture, Indian culture, has gone unbroken and holds the oldest known religion. But the religion, because it's an Eastern religion, is more spiritual in nature and not religious in the Western sense of the word. So this story is about Devahuti, roughly. And these are, if any of you women watching this can even do 20% of what this woman was able to do as a wife, you'll be well ahead of all the other women out there that's strapped, just focus on how they look and the bag they're chasing, and how sexually active or appealing they are. You would blow every last one of them out of the water. So while you're working on the superficial stuff, which is also important in this material world, such as taking care of your health and getting in shape and things like that, mental health, all the eight healths, really emphasize spiritual health. Devahuti was the daughter of the emperor at the time, and back then the culture was sages and gurus and yogis had a higher status than even the emperor. Um, but the emperor had his role to play, which was rule and govern and all that stuff. So the yogis and them, they stay out in the bushes or wherever they are, the hermitage, and do their spiritual thing. And she married was one such sage, right? And this is a princess of an emperor, a daughter of an emperor, giving up all that wealth and luxury and prestige to marry a bum, basically. He was broke, um, living in the bushes somewhere near some river, right? And she was chaste because she was faithful to her husband, right? And she was chaste because she served her husband. It says Devahuti served her husband with intimacy and great respect, with control of the sense, with love, and with sweet words. So she satisfied him sexually as well as intimately, as far as love and affection, cuddling, things like that. Sweet words, words of encouragement, things like that. Never putting him down, etc. So again, these are easy things. I'm assuming y'all can do that. Okay. Working sanely and diligently, she pleased her husband, giving up all lust, pride, envy, greed, sinful activities, and vanity. So a lot of these come from the seven deadly sins. If you can give up a lot of these things, it's easier to serve your husband diligently. Can you women honestly do that today? And of these that I read, lust, pride, envy, greed, and vanity, which one's easy for you to give up? You know, choose a few and work on them. And again, you'll be well ahead of the game with against other modern women. And your physical beauty, you may not have, even if you don't have a pretty face, you may be a 4, 5, 6, somewhere around there. You do these along with the other stuff you're currently doing, staying fit and all that, you'll be well ahead of the game. And you can even practice a lot of this stuff with some of your friends, your male friends. She was fully devoted to her husband, looked upon him as greater than providence. Thus, and because she looked at him greater than providence of blessings of all sorts, she expected great blessings from him. He had to reciprocate. You're not doing this, even though you're doing this out, from inside of you. You still have to expect something in return. So don't think that you're just doing this blindly and aimlessly. There's always a reciprocation. If he's truly a good man, men tend to reciprocate. Not necessarily in the way you maybe perceive it, but they do reciprocate. Okay? This is a husband because he's paying attention. He's saying this, I am astonished that you have neglected your own body to use it on my behalf. So all this while she's dedicating herself to him, she's getting weaker and weaker, matted hair, she's not taking care of her appearance and things like that. She's totally devoted to serving his needs. He's observing this and he noticed that. So, and he acknowledges that she's doing this stuff. And this is a chaste man, a virtuous man, not no bum. And most MGTOW guys, they're growing and developing themselves to be virtuous and chaste as well. At least you should be, if you embrace spiritual health and nurture spiritual health as you're supposed to. By your principles of devotion to your husband, you have achieved and can enjoy transcendental gifts, very rarely obtained by persons proud of aristocracy and material possessions. Okay? So, I know in modern times we tend to focus on the tangible things, the material things, the big house, the fancy cars, that whatever unattainable handbag, shoes, all the materialistic things. But again, we tend to overlook the transcendental things, the intangible things that gives us joy and happiness. And hopefully you as a woman that's looking to be a chaste wife can look beyond the materialistic things, really, and some of the things that make you think that you'll be fulfilled, when it's really the spiritual things that's going to give you true happiness and joy. And hopefully it's not above, this doesn't go above your head. It can easily do so because it's not tangible. And you can do your own research and study. You can read the Srimad Bhagavatam, even the Bible, the Torah, the Quran. A lot of these books touch on these things, but the Srimad Bhagavatam and possibly some of the the Buddhist stuff, because I haven't gotten involved in too much of the Buddhist scripts, because the Buddhist stuff came after the Srimad Bhagavatam stuff, and it's based on the Hindu stuff. So it's kind of like regurgitated information. So I haven't delved into that aspect. But you can, if that's your thing, and you could further your study and understanding of how to become a chaste wife. And again, if you could do 20, 30% of this stuff, you'll be well ahead of the game. And I read some of those things, if you can give up vanity, greed, and lust, and all that stuff. So you could go back at the beginning of the video and look at that. But I digress. Okay. So one of the things, she's married, you know, and she obviously wanted to have children. And it is the man's duty to make sure his wife has children. And she reminds him of this. Again, he's a sage, so he doesn't really, he practices celibacy even within marriage. And one of the things she asked for, because she had pretty much destroyed her body serving him, so she's weak and all that stuff, but she still wants children. And she says, children are a great quality for a chaste woman who has a glorious husband. So you have to have a glorious husband. So you guys, you're in MGTOW, you're growing, you're developing yourself. Develop yourself into be a glorious husband. Again, even like a woman, if you're married, that doesn't necessarily make you a husband. You're just married. You have to have the husband qualities before. And it's very simple for us. Provide and protect. In this case, you provide children for your wife. Right? And again, even though stuff is religiously based, a lot of religion is based on culture. And you look at ancient culture, which seems more successful. They talk about things beyond our things that we are now experiencing today, and yet they talked about it, technology and so forth, as though they lived it. So, like everything is a big cycle. All right. So children. So children are a great quality for a chaste woman who has a glorious husband. So a lot of modern women don't want children. To them it's a burden, things like that. Until they reach like 35, 40 years old, and then, that's geriatric pregnancies start kicking in. So again, if you're young, being a chaste woman means having children too. For a glorious man or your husband, not being a baby mama, because you obviously had a child, but it's not for a glorious man, just a man, and that comes from promiscuity. So you got to be careful with that. And because she wants children, she told her husband, also, my lord, please think of a suitable house for the purpose of raising these children. All right, not the house for self gratification. It's for the purpose of raising children. That's what a house is supposed to be. It's not so you can show off to your friends, hey, look at this big ass house I have. Again, that's dipping into the most of material nature, passion and ignorance primarily. So if you could live with your husband in the bushes somewhere and be dedicated to him and give your soul, your very soul, to the purpose of serving him, right? Which maybe 99% of you women out there would not be able to do without some resentment. You got to be able to do that completely. And I'm not saying to do it to test yourself. I'm just saying if you could do 20 to 30% of this stuff, you'll be well ahead of the game, because you women, there are more women out there than there are men. So you're really competing for the few men. And of those few men, most of you all are competing for even like a 1% of men. 99% of women are competing for 1% of men. So you're completely irrational when it comes to that stuff. But hopefully some of this stuff will help you all out. And you will see some good men, especially that's in MGTOW, because men in MGTOW have gone their own way, even though they're seeking relationships still. They, their mindset is completely different now. So they have the MGTOW mindset. And you can look at some of my videos to see what some of that mindset is, or some of the suggestions that I've offered. Okay? So she does have her children, and she she got her health back. Her husband really, was paying attention, and he in turn served her, brought her back to her health back. She started taking care of her appearance again. He provided a house and everything that they needed for the purpose of raising children, and she looked like her old self again, because he reciprocated after observing all the things that she was doing on his behalf. And a good man, a MGTOW man, will do that because they know what it's like. A MGTOW man knows what it's like to be hurt, to be used, to be uh, marginalized, all that stuff. The only difference is that they become aware of it. They became awoken to it, stepped away from it, and then started focusing on themselves with no woman involved, no intimate relationships involved. But that doesn't necessarily mean that a MGTOW man doesn't want to have a relationship. He's not completely against it. It just takes a special woman. And if you are that special woman that could do 20 to 30% of what I just read, you might be the one of those lucky ones. Because if you look at my previous video, I talked about a man that has a good wife is fortunate. All right. So, are you a good wife? Can you be a good wife? And what are you doing to become a good wife? Look at the other videos I've posted, and hopefully it will help you look at some of those things, that aspect. All right. All right. It is said as well, when the discharge of a male is greater, male children are begotten. But when the discharge of a female is greater, female children are begotten. So it is, according to ancient Sanskrits and texts like that, women, I guess why there are more women in the world than men, women come, they have a higher intensity of ecstasy. Um, That's the reason more women are born. But if a man has, during that sexual act, uh, at that point has a greater uh, ecstasy, then a male child is born. I don't know how true that is. Y'all can test that out. I'm just reading it from the script, the text, and I'm not gonna say that I know all this stuff. I'm just saying it's based on the culture of the time and what was said at that time. Um, so it's a little bit of a tidbit that you might want to look into. It has no real relevance to the message that I'm talking about, but I thought I'd throw it in there just for the fun of it. But here's a tough one. If you want to be a good wife, a true wife, a virtuous wife, a chaste wife, you have to surrender your soul to your husband. And when I and right, so if your body gets broken or worn out, all the other stuff, all the health is drained from you. Is nothing, should be nothing compared to your soul. If you surrender your soul to your husband, all the other aspects, all the other health becomes irrelevant. and it simplifies your life. And a virtuous man will reciprocate, where most of these bums that y'all choose to fall for and go with can never reciprocate anything. But those are the bad boys y'all choose. They cannot reciprocate anything, and you get used up, washed up, aged out, and then thrown back out into the field at age 35, 40 years old, with nothing. Maybe a few kids here and there that you can raise on your own, and they'll grow up and eventually help take care of you. But if you find a good man and you surrender your soul to that man, all the other helps become irrelevant, and that man must and will deliver. Like, subscribe, ask questions in the comment section down below if you have any questions. Ladies, I would love to get your opinion, what you'll think about this video, because it's fairly long, and it can be controversial, but it's based on culture thousands of years old, and the principles are timeless. We just choose to ignore a lot of that and create our own miseries, but it's also part of the cyclical evolution of life. Now, while you're married, right, association for sense gratification is certainly the path of bondage. So having a lot of sex and all, and material, chasing after material goods and gains, or chasing after being ambitious, or wanting your husband to become ambitious and keep continually growing and chasing this financial pipe dream, that stuff is a path to bondage, sense gratification. Okay, a chaste woman is not that. And make tell fellas, if you see a woman like that, this is what to look for. I know I've talked about it in other videos in many different ways, but from a scriptural setting, a spiritual setting, for spiritual health, these are the things you look for. So you do not become entangled or entrapped or be bondaged by sense gratification that mainly modern women push for. They want that fancy bag, that fancy shoes, that big house, all that stuff, the glitz and glamour, and completely ignore spiritual health. Be careful with that. That's where that verse comes in handy. Again, if you have any questions, ask it in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe. The last little tidbit, because this video is getting pretty long, it's like Diva Hootie was fully faithful and respectful towards the directions that her husband gave. Alright, so she may have ideas of her own. She might have even discussed some of those ideas to her husband, but she respected her husband enough where she followed his lead, followed his direction. Even if it were to go down the wrong path, she still respected him and followed him down that wrong path. Can you modern women do that? Hopefully you can surrender your soul to your husband, and hopefully he is a good man. And I'm not talking about some of the things. Surrendering your soul, I kind of glossed over it, but it's a more in-depth topic, and I will probably talk about that in another video. Just ask in the comment section down below if you want me to talk about that. If not, you could go ahead and do your own research again. I am looking, the information I'm looking at, I'm reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 3rd canto, part 2. So if you have any questions, again, ask in the comment section down below. You could go online, the books are free. You can read them on your own, and study them just like you to improve, for self-improvement on a spiritual level. But there are some things that will help you in the modes of material nature when it comes to marriage and intimacy and relationships. that you women can definitely benefit from, because you need it significantly more than men do. There's so much more women out there than men. That you guys are the ones really competing for us. So y'all have a good day.